So let's get into it. The dawn of the 18th century marked a pivotal era for the British Empire. The Atlantic world, a vast, interconnected web of peoples, goods, and ideas stretching from Europe to Africa and the Americas, was in flux. Empires clashed, alliances shifted, and the fate of continents would be decided not just by kings and admirals, but also by merchants, planters, enslaved Africans, and Native American nations. For Britain, the competition for North America was fierce and fraught with peril. Spanish, French, and a dazzling array of indigenous powers all vied for influence, resources, and survival. In this context, every new settlement, every diplomatic overture, and every skirmish must be seen as part of a larger contest, a contest that would shape not only the continent, but the very future of the British Empire. This is Crash Course, North America. Britain's 18th century empire was built on the foundation of three pillars. First was a dynamic and ambitious monarchy. By 1700, England, soon to be Great Britain after the 1707 Act of Union with Scotland, was emerging as a global power, fueled by a growing merchant class and a burgeoning colonial empire. Second was a powerful merchant class seeking ever-growing profits. The British Empire was above all a merchant's empire. Its leaders believed that prosperity and power flowed from trade, the extraction of raw materials from the colonies, their shipment to Britain, and the sale of manufactured goods back across the Atlantic and around the world. Colonies were not just distant outposts. They were essential cogs in a complex machine of commerce, credit, and consumption. Sugar from the West Indies, tobacco from Virginia, rice from Carolina, and later, indigo and cotton from the southern mainland colonies enriched British merchants and filled the royal treasury. Finally, there was an ideology that justified and directed imperial ambition. Imperial philosophy held that colonies existed to benefit the mother country and should be subordinate to its interests. Mercantilism was the guiding economic ideology, the notion that economic activity should serve the interests of the state and that colonies existed to benefit the mother country. This meant strict control over colonial trade through navigation acts, a constant search for new markets, and a suspicion of rival powers. But Britain's ambitions were not merely economic. The empire's leaders sought to spread Protestantism, forge new identities, and secure strategic advantage over their Catholic rivals, most notably Spain and France. Colonization, in this view, was an act of both faith and force. In this imperial chess match, the rules were clear. Trade was strictly regulated.
Colonial assemblies could make no laws without London's approval, and the movement of people and resources was carefully monitored. All of this was overseen by a growing bureaucracy of imperial officials and boards, such as the Board of Trade, whose job it was to ensure the empire's health. By 1700, England had laid claim to several key colonies.
In North America, the 13 colonies stretched along the Atlantic coast from Maine to Georgia. The original 13 included Massachusetts Bay, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Between them, these colonies had a population of about 250,000 people, with the largest cities being Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. But England was not alone on the continent. To the south, the Spanish Empire loomed large, anchored by its vast holdings in the Southwest and the Caribbean. To the north, the French claimed vast territories stretching from Canada to the Mississippi, and scattered across the interior were numerous Native American nations with their own claims and ambitions. The Spanish Empire in the early 18th century was a sprawling but aging dominion. While its Caribbean and South American colonies were still quite lucrative, they were increasingly difficult to defend. Nevertheless, Spain remained a formidable presence, especially in Florida and the Gulf Coast. Florida was more than a remote outpost. It was a military and diplomatic center, a haven for runaway slaves from Carolina, and a base for Catholic missionary activity among Native Americans. Moreover, the Spanish saw Florida as a buffer zone between their vast American empire and the burgeoning British colonies to the north. At the same time, the Spanish in Florida recognized the threat posed by the British colonies to their south. They feared British expansionism and the potential loss of valuable territories.
As a result, the Spanish authorities in Florida were eager to prevent any British incursions into their domain. One way they tried to achieve this was by encouraging enslaved Africans to flee to Florida, offering them freedom and land in return for conversion to Christianity and military service. This policy was motivated by several factors. Firstly, it was a means to undermine the economic foundation.